Are you listening? Damn.
Welcome to the AFC North Talk here after a month in hibernation.
Too long. Been too long.
It was long enough that look, Q did this, boom, and his background changed just like that. Look at that beautiful background over there in Q's new crib. Hey guys, we are super excited to be here. We're so hyped. How you doing, Ace, man? How you been?
I've been great, man. Just relaxing and, studying free agency, studying the draft, putting together some stuff on that, watching some film on the prospects. So the typical things that you kind of do around this time, right? We got that long 6-month period. And we all know in the NFL, the AFC or the league year is pretty much year round, because when you get into the offseason, you start looking at prospects, you start looking at free agents, you start kind of putting your GM hat on. So that's what I've kind of been doing and during this hibernation period.
How are you, Tony, man? Big Ben leaving, Big Ben coming.
Of course, it's another. I'm excited. It's another full season of will they, won't they with Ben Roethlisberger, right? I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to have all these. It's going to be a whole off season of this, and I'm looking forward to that. No, but like Ace, obviously, I'm all in draft prep right now. Much like Ace, I think Steeler fans prepare themselves to get hurt again in free agency, where we build up. Hey, they could actually sign J.J. Watt. They could go after big name players, and then they don't. For me, it's really about preparing for the draft season and trying to figure out how the Steelers can bring some of their guys back. Because I think when we talk about free agency, that's more likely than the Steelers going out and signing big names.
Q, man, you have a whole new decor. How you been, bro? I know you've been busy.
Yeah, I've been a little bit busy here. Dropping my videos is normal. And, Tony, it is going to be a rough offseason as you try to figure out what the Steelers can do to get over that Cleveland Brown hump that they could not get over at the end of 2020. Oh, man. Well, the start of 2021, let me make that clear. We'll see what they can do. Can the Pittsburgh Steelers do enough in the offseason to overcome Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns? We don't know. They got to get over that hump. Ben has to prove he can beat the Browns in the playoffs. Has not done it. So,
Can I just say, first of all, I was prepared for this, fully prepared for this, and I'm so happy. I mean, thank you, J.J. Watt, because I knew he wasn't going to the Steelers. But if I had to deal with this from Quincy and the fact that the Browns had just signed J.J. Watt, again, I may have to take another month off. It may take me that long to recover.
Hey guys, I know we all excited to be here. Remember, super chats are available. It's your way to derail this show. As you know, as I see some people say, you guys should change the thumbnail or whatever. I'm the one that usually makes the thumbnail, and we were like, what player like your fan base is hunting for? And Quincy like J.J. Watt, and Tony was like J.J. Watt. So I made the thumbnail, and the day before, it comes scratching. That's why free agency is so exciting. That's why it's so good. But before we just go straight to free agency, because I know everybody wants to go, we have a sponsor. And we need your help to keep this sponsor. So, Tony, take it away, man.
Yeah, I want to tell you about our friends over at Manscaped. It's possible that you have Big Ben's beard in your pants, and that's why our partners at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have partnered with us to make sure you don't gamble on shaving your balls the same way you like to gamble on football. For listeners of AFC North Talk, we have an exclusive 20% off promo code. Use the promo code AFC North Talk, all one word, at manscaped.com. Now, Steeler fans, we learned an important lesson in 2020. Ball security is important, and that's why Manscaped is here to help you. They are going to help you protect your balls with the Lawnmower 3.0. They got a ceramic blade and skin-safe technology, so your nicks and snags will be reduced. I use it. It's a tremendous product. In fact, it's draft season, so let me give you my scouting report of the Lawnmower 3.0. Okay, first of all,
this is beautiful.
we talk about contact balance. We want contact balance from our prospects, right? Well, they got the ceramic blade, they got the skin safe technology. You do not have to worry about snags or nicks when it comes to the Lawnmower 3.0. Also, vision is important. It has a light on it, which when I first saw the light I was like, why is there a light on here? This seems excessive. No. Trust me, you need the light. Okay?
You need that.
You need the light. Yes, and that is why Manscaped are the leaders in below the waist grooming. Listen, the lawnmower is basically the Steelers drafting a wide receiver. It's a can't miss prospect. It's a can't miss product. They have a performance package that comes with not only the lawnmower, comes with the weed whacker, which is a nose and ear hair trimmer, performance boxer briefs, a travel bag. I actually have the travel bag around here. Yeah, here you go. This is my new travel bag. I mean, yeah, it is a dope bag. They also have liquid formulations like the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver. Now, the Crop Preserver is deodorant for your balls, which you may think, again, this is one of these things where you don't think about it, but here we go. It's one of those things
need some of that.
Exactly. Since I started using it, Ace, I can't imagine going back. It's this is the day 3 prospect that turns out to be the starter. So for a limited time, subscribers, you get 2 free gifts. This Shed travel bag, which is a $39 value, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped boxer briefs. You get that plus 20% off and free shipping, but you have to use the promo code AFcnorthtalk. That's all one word, AFcnorthtalk at manscaped.com.
So a couple of things, guys. I hopefully you love this bid. Congrats. Tony did a fantastic here. So don't forget, protect your balls, Manscaped, but also
ball security. It's important.
Ball security is important. Also, if you buy it with a promo code, please send us an email or DM. We have a Twitter now. Send us the DM, which is the purchase with AFC North. We'll give you a shout out on the show. We need in the next month 10 people to buy it so we can make this partnership permanent. So please go out, support the channel, go manscaped.com. AFC North Talk, one word. It's in the description below. If you're not sure how to put it in the promo code, you can just go there, copy, paste it, 20% off. You can help the channel that way. You can take care of your man business. Okay.
Let me see the banner at the bottom.
Oh yeah, damn it! You see. I was laughing and
got so wrapped up.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I got the
man.
performance things on right now. I'm ready.
He got the whole set. He got the shirt.
Pumped up. I got the shirt on. I got it all. I'm sold.
Look how comfortable. Look how comfortable Ace looks right now. That is a man of comfort. That is a man who is not worried about fumbling his balls away. These are the anti-Eric Ebron products. Like, these balls are secure.
That's absolutely right. The Steelers' priority in the offseason needs to be Manscaped.
Maybe Manscaped
right?
needs to sponsor the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. That's what they need to do.
So they can have more security. They sure have. Okay. So let's talk about free agency here. And hey, free agency is upon us, right? We're a week away before the tampering period, roughly, right? It's the 15th.
If only we could know what the salary cap's going to be. That would be nice.
That is one of the stupidest things between salary cap and we don't know if there's a 17th game, but hey, this is the NFL. They like to take their time. Yeah. Anyway, JJ Watt, like I said, guys, 2 days before we were talking, and then Quincy is like, oh, maybe JJ. Tony's like, it's not going to be realistic, but also JJ is what the fans meant. Arizona, it was a team that I don't think nobody talked about. If I remember.
No one did. No one said it. Schefter didn't have it. Rapport didn't have it. And Jay Glazer tried to come in after the fact, after he signed and said, oh, yeah, the Cardinals were in it the whole time. Oh, really, Jay?
Oh, really?
Maybe you could have let us know that. Like,
it would appear so that they were in it the whole time.
The Cardinals were in it the whole time. Yeah.
It was like it's down to the Browns, Bills, and Dolphins. It's like, oh, no, it's not. It's definitely not.
The only thing they said was the Browns and somebody else offered him more money, but he went with the Cardinals. It's the only report we have. Yeah. I think the signing, I think the Cardinals know in that division they need a good D-line to battle, and that division is probably the strongest division in the NFC. I think no doubt. The San Francisco had a down year, just killed with injuries, and now they have a high draft pick, so they can retool a little bit. So. Definitely it's going to be interesting. JJ Watt. So JJ Watt is not contending here, but I'm going to, the team with the most cap currently, and it should be the most cap for, doesn't matter what cap number we have, is the Bengals. So Ace, I'm going to start with you. What are the priorities do you see the Bengals? Who do you think the Bengals are going to go after? And who are you hoping they sign?
So in terms of who they're going to go after, they're going to have to start with 2 of their own, right? You talk about Carl Lawson, you talk about William Jackson III, a Bengals defense that wasn't really good last year, but those were some of the best players that they had left, especially after moving on from Carlos Dunlap. So they literally have no choice but to bring back Carl Lawson because we literally only had 15 to 17 sacks last year, and most of those were Carl Lawson. And most of those were Carlos Dunlap, who's no longer there. So it starts there. And then you look at William Jackson III. This Bengals secondary at the corner position could easily go from it being a strength with having those two safeties and having some depth at the cornerback position to not having it at all. It could easily be a weakness because you talk about if they lose William Jackson III, you're starting Trey Waynes, who didn't play at all last year. Before that, Trey Waynes wasn't a notable shutdown corner. He was a good second guy that you gave number one corner money, which is still confusing and head-scratching. And then you also had Mackenzie Alexander, who you signed for a one-year deal, who was a very good player, but he could easily be on his way out of there. So you're talking about coming in easily with only Winston Rose, a guy who played in the CFL, and you're also talking about Trey Waynes, so not the best cornerback position. So that's why William Jackson is a priority. He's not, in my opinion, a top 5 corner or a top 10. He's easily the best corner on the Bengals, and they're going to have to keep him. But they're going to have to look at what the money is going to be, because we saw last year with Byron Jones, if you're the top corner, which some people may consider him the top corner on the market just because of his age and things like that, he could get top dollar. So it starts there. Then we all know that it also starts with that offensive line. You talk about the 2 guard positions. You got a potential free agent guard class with Joe Thuney. That would be, I think, who they would want to go after. But here's the thing. The Bengals have never paid guards like that. Like, this isn't something that's new. That's their philosophy. They pay tackles. They do not pay guards. That was one of the reasons that they let Kevin Zeitler go. That's one of the reasons they never chased after those big notable guards where you have to pay $12 to $13 million. That's going to come down to what Joe Thuney is willing to make a deal for. Is he willing to take some sort of Von Bell deal like he took last year in order to return to Ohio? Because Joe Thuney is from an area near Cincinnati. So a lot of people think that that may be enticing, but at the end of the day, the money may be greener somewhere else. That's something that the Bengals are going to have to look into. Now, I have talked to some people close to the coaching staff, and it seems that they feel that the number 5 pick may lean towards offense, depending on how free agency goes. And so with that being a priority on fixing the offensive line, this defense still needs to be fixed, right? Because they still have a very bad defense. We're talking about the Ravens ran for what? They set a record against us, 500 yards or something like that. This is a bad defense. So even after they tried to retain Carl Lawson and William Jackson III, they still need more people. And you talk about Geno Atkins, he's aging. They're getting ready to release him. That's going to give them about possibly $10 million in cap savings to get back. They're going to have to replace him too. So as soon as you cut him, you're going to have to go out and get someone else there. So I think that they're going to make more moves than people think as far as Bengals fans in free agency on defense. And that's kind of been hinted at. A lot of Bengals fans don't like that, but the reality is our defense is trash, and we're transitioning from a 3-4 from a 4-3, and that's going to take time. You're going to have to get 3-4 personnel. You're going to have to get guys that are accustomed to the system, and there's only a couple ways that you can do that. Trades, free agency, and the draft. And so you're going to have to go into, and I think that they're going to have to go into this attacking the trenches. I think that if it were me, I would expect them to go after maybe Joe Thuney, or even you talk about Larry Warford, who opted out last season. He's also a guy that's from like the Kentucky area. And if you know about Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky is essentially considered Cincinnati. He's also close by. So maybe they go after a guy like that. They're going to try to get some bargains, but a decent player at that guard position. They could also look at a guy like Austin Blythe. But you know, the fans, if they really want to please the fans, it would be Joe Thuney. Will they do it? I can't sit here and say definitively that the Bengals would give Joe Thuney $15 million. I just can't say that. I don't think that they would do that. They could also look at the tackles. That's an option. You do have some free agent tackles out there. Do I think it would be realistic that they're going to sign Trent Williams? No. Like they'd pay a tackle, but it probably wouldn't be Trent Williams just because of his age. The Bengals, when guys hit 30, they do not look at them the same. And you're talking about a guy that's 32.
Yeah.
So I don't see that happening, but they could be in the tackle market. I think they will get some offensive linemen, but mostly I think you're going to see them attack also the corner position, secondary position. You see them already bringing in Ricardo Allen on a visit. This is a guy that they're looking at right now. So I think that you'll see them attack defense in terms of the trenches, and then you also see them with some corners and stuff like that. And then I think you'll see them try to get some bargains, Von Bell kind of signings at that guard position to try to shore it up.
What about Edge? Where does Edge play in with the Bengals? Because it's a good year to need
has
some
to be high. Edge has to be high for them. And I've heard some things, more notably, excuse me, before some things happened in terms of Von Miller. I'll just say that his name getting kind of thrown into the media. I heard some things about him and about them having some potential interest in him. They were hoping, from what I hear, that, Denver looks at him and decides maybe he's not the guy anymore, but I don't know what that means in terms of what they would pay for him. But they definitely are looking for an edge rusher. I can tell you that edge rusher is high on the priority list for the Bengals defense.
It's a good year to want it. I mean, there's so many out there. We can talk about Shaq Barrett's going to be available. I mean, obviously the Steelers are not going to bring Bud Dupree back in all likelihood, so he'll hit the open market. Melvin Ingram, Matt Judon. I mean, it's a good year. It's a good year to want an edge.
Yes, sir.
So Q, what do you think the Bengals, based on what Ace was saying, they should do, where they should attack? What is your thoughts on the Bengals free agency market?
I don't know exactly what they should do, right? I don't have specific moves out here, but I will say this to Bengals fans and the Bengals organization. They are like treading a very dangerous line here where it's like, hey, you could mess around and become the Texans, or you can mess around and become the Colts with Andrew Luck. And what I mean by this is that either the Cincinnati Bengals do nothing pretty much this offseason and keep that same offensive line around him, and you do become the Colts, right? Where you don't know how long Joe Burrow is going to play or want to play. He doesn't seem like somebody who's going to force a trade right now, but, we don't know what the future is going to have. Or you can go the Deshaun Watson path, which is maybe you do give a ton of money, to try to fix certain areas. But maybe those signings don't work out. $15 million for Joe Thuney at guard. Like, I can't blame the Brown family for saying nah on that one. I wouldn't say yes to that one. Guard play, you can, if you have good tackles, and what they're hoping is that at the end of this draft, they have two good tackles and they can try to just put some good guards in there between. You can live with some decent guards out there. So it's going to take a lot of thriftiness, because you don't want to end up in a place where you spend a lot on defense and you spend a lot on the offensive line and some of those signings don't work out. And then you end up like Houston, where they have a ton of bad contracts or they have a lot of back money or dead cap money that they don't want. Now, the Bengals and having a ton of dead cap money, that's really never going to happen. It's not how Mike Brown, you don't pay nobody to sit at home. Like, that's not how he gets down. So I don't think you have to worry about that, but you do have to worry about having guys there for a long time that might not be worth the money that they're going to get. So that's a big concern for the Bengals. My thing with the Bengals is like, look, do what you can on the offensive line this season, but literally save all that money. Let all that cap roll over, because, you can get the cap roll over, so you got like the bonus cap year if you want to do it. That's what the Browns have done since 2016. Because, look, you're not going to be – I don't know if you're going to be contending this year, right? Like, you might be able to get like 8 wins, 7 wins, or maybe 9, right? And you might have a good season, but I don't think there's much the Bengals can do right now to become like a true contending team where you're like, this team can make the AFC Championship. And if that's not the case, then don't overcommit yourself and kind of blow an opportunity where you can put some things around Joe Burrow when he's ready. You know what I mean? Right now, this season is about Joe Burrow and Joe Burrow's development and how far can Joe Burrow take you. So that's what they need to see right now. It's really not about how far can the Bengals go with Joe Burrow yet. That's your 3rd and 4th year. You start having those conversations. But for right now with Joe Burrow, it's just seeing how far can he take us, because you need to know that to know how much do we need to add and spend in certain places in order to build the best team around him. If you start trying to build the best team around him in year 2, you're going to end up with some kind of complicated situations, much like the Cleveland Browns, where they went all in on building around Baker Mayfield. In year 2, it got complicated. They didn't put the right pieces together, and then they had to fire Freddie Kitchens and kind of have a soft restart. So if you're the Bengals, understand, like, this is a patient year. This might not be the funnest year. I don't think you're going to bring in a ton of free agents. I don't think that's what this year is about. This year is about seeing how far Joe Burrow can take you while also doing what you can to keep him healthy, right? Now, if they don't do what they can to keep him healthy, that's a disaster. Yeah. That is an unmitigated disaster. Yeah. There's no reason you can't keep him healthy, or at least provide an offensive line to keep him healthy. So that is the one thing they must do. Everything else is about seeing how far Joe Burrow and the pieces around him right now can go, because you don't know, right? You've only had 8-game sample size with Joe Burrow. You don't know how far he can take you, so you need to learn that. I know a lot of people have ideas on how far he can take you. I think he can take you a very far way, but we don't know. These are all theories. This season right here, 2021, all about how far can Joe Burrow can take you, and that's where you'll be able to build a better strategy around this team.
Tony.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially to hear Ace talk about it, and all the different holes that they're going to have on defense. It's a tough ask to fix all of that in one offseason, right? When you're talking about, fixing holes not only in your interior defensive line, but you need edge rush help, and then your secondary, right? And the linebacking core certainly could use some additions. And by the way, also, your offensive line was terrible last year, and it got Joe Burrow hurt for the year. So that's got to be a priority number one. One of the more interesting things, though, when I look at the Bengals offseason, you talk about like Joe Thuney. Obviously, that's the best guard available. He might be the only really good guard available, though, and that may drive the price through. We talk about $15 million. I mean, I think he was making $14 million a year ago. So
he was tagged.
Yeah. So that number may go even higher, right? We may be talking about $17 million if there gets to be a pricing war for the only good guard that's in free agency this year.
The Bengals fans, I know y'all. He's from Cincinnati. He ain't take nobody in that situation is ever going to take a pay cut when their time's up, right? When it's like, yo, it's our time to get this money, and especially when the cap going down. Oh no, I'm not taking a pay cut. He's not taking a pay cut. So it's 15 flat. And that's the pay cut, honestly, is $15 million.
Yeah.
For Joe Thuney.
Yeah. So, and then here's what I think about, though. I know that Bengals fans are very sold on the idea of taking, whether it's Slater or Panay, the tackle from Oregon at that 5th pick, and just, lock down. You got Jonah Williams on one side and whoever you take at 5 on the other. Here's my thing, though. If I'm picking that high in the draft, right, you either want, obviously, the offensive lineman who's going to be there for 15 years is a great pick. And I'm not a bad pick. But if you have a chance to get a generational talent, and I think Kyle Pitts might be that kind of guy at tight end, the tight end / whatever he's going to be. It doesn't have to be a tight end. But if he's that guy, if you think he's that guy, maybe you do try to mix things up and try to figure this offensive line thing out in free agency. And
Ace
give yourself.
Ace didn't want to hear your stuff.
It's crazy Tony coming out. But I'm not saying that they have to do that, but I think it would be. I think they certainly have to consider it, because I think Pitts is the kind of talent that doesn't roll around very often, right? Certainly a transcendent player at the tight end position, and something that you can give Joe Burrow that along with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, and that's your core for the next 10 years, right? I think you got to.
Then you snap the ball. Oh, the guy's he's open.
You got to solve the offensive line problem, and you're going to have to do that through free agency. Or, again, not to say that the only way that they can get a starting offensive lineman is with pick number 5. This is a very deep offensive line class, and the second, they could do that in the second round. So I think if they can in free agency set themselves up to take a Kyle Pitts at 5, that may ultimately be their best move, because if he is indeed that kind of transcendent player at the position.
So let me just say this for the Bengals. I was gonna go with O-line. I agree actually with everything that you said there. If anything, this year the main thing is you have Burrow coming from knee injury. You have to protect him. He cannot be getting hammered left and right like he did last year. If you fix it in free agency, then obviously in the 5th overall pick you can pick whatever the hell you want. The reality is, for the Bengals, whoever you bring in, and this is true by any team that is the 4th place in a division, you have to overpay. So if you're not willing to overpay, so if Thuney right now salary is $17 million, the Bengals have to pay 18. If whoever the next guard is, the average salary around there is 13, the Bengals will have to pay 15, because they're going to tell them, we're not going to win next year, but we're building, right? We're building. You're part of this building, right? Whoever they bring, they have to overpay. And the one position that they have to is O-line. Yeah, you can live without edge. Yeah, you might get hammered every game, but your quarterback won't be hurt. And the reality, that's how you're going to build this team for the future. If you don't build if you don't build that O-line, with Burrow coming from injury, you don't know if he's going to get hurt the following year. And now you have a quarterback back-to-back years with injuries and no good O-line. That's not great. Now, I agree with Tony, not on Pitt, but I agree that if you build the O-line in the offseason, you can pick whatever the hell you want a fifth. But if you don't, you have to go with that fifth pick and pick the O-line. Now, the only thing that I will say with Kyle Pitt, because we're going to talk extensively about drafting this channel as the weeks come by, is I keep hearing every year, or most every year, the generational talent and tight end, and put an X, name X. You can name whoever. OJ Howard. Next, this dude is gonna be the next coming of Jesus in tight end. Right?
Njoku was gonna be that guy.
And Njoku, and you heard it with Hawkinson, right? You heard it with Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. Hawkinson was a little overrated.
Evan Ingram. Right, you heard it with him. Every year, he's going to be a mismatch. All I'm saying with tight ends, I think Kyle Pitt should just move to wide receiver, in my opinion. That's all I'm going to say. But I think Kyle Pitt is good. But buyer beware. Every year we hear from the one tight end, the dude is going to change the league. And I'm still waiting for it. Anyway, let's talk about the second team with the most cap here. The Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns Q. What do you think the Browns will do? I hear a lot of chatter of let's trade OBJ. Even more cap. This is from Cleveland Browns fans, by the way.
I know. I'm fully aware.
Sonny, I don't know if you saw Quincy. He did a whole video on why they should trade Baker Mayfield straight up for Deshaun Watson. Did I see that on your channel, Quincy?
No, man. I was on vacation that week too. I was like, I'm gonna relax, get away from the football, and then they hit me with this foolishness about trading Baker Mayfield in 2 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, which I felt like a little ridiculous.
That's right.
And then I had to deal with people coming on the radio talk about something. It's ridiculous to think the Texans would take that offer of Baker Mayfield. And they're like, so we just gonna get disrespectful.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we just gonna get that disrespectful. Okay.
Was that in Cleveland, Quincy?
Yeah, it's I'm not about to mention nobody. I'm not trying to start no drama, but
that's fine.
Y'all know who they is. They be out here saying this ridiculous stuff while also be like, I like Baker Mayfield, but I just don't think he's. Anyways, before I get into that whole rant, look, with the Browns,
this is a question for you, Q. Yes. So you can take that and then keep going. Hey, Quincy, if Baker and OBJ have a great season together, can you see the Browns trading Jarvis? That's a new one.
I like this.
It's not
Same
new.
discussion, but turned on its head.
Browns fans, I need y'all to say this with me. We don't need to worry about the cap this year. We don't need to worry about the cap next year.
Now Baker's money's coming due.
Yeah. Baker money gonna come through. You know when that money's gonna come due? After Odell and Jarvis's contracts are already up and they're gonna be 30. You're good. You don't need to worry about the cap. You know Andrew Berry, he's not out here like I gotta get some cap savings. He got $30 million in cap rollover. He could go $30 million over if he wanted to right now and be fine. We do not need to sit here and talk about trading anybody within the next year to save cap space. That is what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do. Maybe in a year or so, what the Baltimore Ravens will have to do. But we are not in that conversation yet. We don't need to make our team worse by trading our best receiver for what? By the way, this is what bugs me about the Odell trade. What are you going to trade Odell for right now? He ain't got no ACL. A third? We're going to trade Odell for it. You might as well just see what you got out of Odell. That's worth a third in itself. But anyways, so we talking about free agency. I'm not talking about some of this foolishness that's going on here. I just feel like Browns fans are new into this spot. We have not been good for a while. You know what I mean? Like we don't know how to act right now. You know what I mean? We don't know. We acting out. But as far as free agency goes, the old dude I got my eyes on everybody who's not a free agent right now, because all the guys who are going to be free agents, Browns probably aren't going to be trying to spend a ton of money for guys who are young, who are going to be long-term commitments when they already got like 7 dudes on their roster right now. They're going to have to extend, right? You talk about Denzel Ward, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, all these guys that are going to be coming up, like Wyatt Teller, Ronnie Harrison. Like you got enough young dudes that you need to sign to long-term extensions coming up. You know, and then maybe Greedy Williams has a good year. Maybe David Njoku has an elite year. Like all these things can happen that make you kind of tied to these guys for long term. So we don't really need to bring in a Carl Lawson or another young dude to kind of complicate things unless like they're that guy. The guys that we need to look at or the JJ Watts are the guys that you're like, oh, that guy's going to be a cap casualty, right? You look at New Orleans, they're full of dudes who could become cap casualties. Now, I don't necessarily think on their defense, they have a ton of great options there. I did a video about Marshawn Lattimore, and I don't know about you guys, whenever I thought of Marshawn Lattimore, I thought of how good he was his rookie year and just thought he was that dude. He has not been that dude the last 3 years. Not
It's
remote.
inconsistent. He will have great games, and then he was like, we'll just
No,
see.
it ain't even inconsistent. It's like, Terrence Mitchell level. Like, it's not Pro Bowl level play corner. It's decent, but it ain't what you would. It's not 5th-year option corner play, which is shocking seeing how good he was his first year.
Is he better than William Jackson?
No, he's not. I don't know. No. William Jackson could be a fringe one. I don't think he's a fringe one. I think he's a 2. He's a 2, and you got to be careful of who you keep him on because he's fast. He can do that stuff, but he's not really the best instincts at the corner position.
That is true.
Yeah. So it is what it is when you look at those things, right? I think somebody who's going to be interested in Harrison Smith. If Harrison Smith gets cut because he doesn't have any dead money, if the Vikings want to cut him, and the Vikings aren't going to be very good this year, so maybe they want to do some cap savings, get some rollovers with some gears. They're going to be good. They could cut him. That would be an excellent pickup. Harrison Smith is everything that the Browns need in that back end. He has a decent speed. He can play all 3 positions in the secondary slot, box, and free. Everything you need him to do. You can relegate, maybe an Andrew Sadeo to a backup role. You can have him out there, and you can also use him to ease in Grant Delpit back into the rotation because he's going to be coming in late for that injury. That's a signing that if he becomes available, Browns need to jump on that. And he's not going to be too expensive, 32 years old at safety. You can get him for about $10 million. There's other guys in there, like a Derek Barnett. I might take a flyer on that looks like he's probably going to get cut. Let me see what else here, but
it's got Kyle Van Noy that just got cut.
Yeah, Kyle Van Noy just got cut.
I see a bunch of Browns fans here.
People are
Browns
talking about
Hold on. I know every time a big name gets cut, we want him to go to Cleveland because we that team right now. I know how it is. I know. Y'all everybody want to do it. But look. I don't know about Kyle Van Noy and his fit in Cleveland. We tried this with Jamie Collins a couple of years ago, where you get that Belichick style middle linebacker who likes to kind of roam around and be free, and it just didn't work out. Now it's completely different defensive systems, but I still think some of the same principles that made Jamie Collins not being that good in Cleveland are still going to apply here. And this dude just got cut from Miami, who's a contending team, so it tells you everything about how they value him, right? Was he from Miami, right?
Yeah.
Yes. One thing that I'll say though is somebody's gonna look at his sacks and be like, 6 sacks, that's not bad. Just realize 3 of those came again't the Bengals and our offensive line, so it's kind of inflated. He really only had like.
I thought you were gonna bring up his pressure numbers, and I was gonna be so excited.
That was the game of the year for him.
Yeah, but it's just gonna be. Look, keep your eyes open. The older guys, the Von Millers of the world, like these are the, if you need edge help, you're going to get some guys who are going to become available. But this is about patience this offseason for Cleveland Browns fans. I said this, I think, before we left, but this for Browns fans, they want a free agency, probably not going to be that interesting for you. Because we're not going to sign anybody who's a day one free agent type guy unless like Von Miller becomes available or something like that. We're going to sign older guys. We're going to get more veterans because this team is loaded with youth. They have a ton of youth already. Now they need some veterans to come in there. I think the thing that Myles Garrett has missed his entire career is a really strong, proven veteran presence on the other side that can command respect. We talk about Olivier Vernon. I'm sorry, offensive coordinators ain't worried about Olivier Vernon when they see him on the roster. They're not worried about Emmanuel Ogbah, and they ain't going to be worried about Adrian Claiborne. It's going to be, hey, if you got Von Miller there, you got J.J. Watt, and now they got to be worried about it. And we've seen the Steelers were egregious with this, where they were like, yo, everybody's sliding towards Myles. That's what's going to happen until you have somebody that people respect on the other side. And Myles can be as good as he wants. He can jump over 58 inches of wood.
That was crazy, man.
280 pounds, 6'5". It don't matter because it's going to be 4 offensive linemen deep every time he gets the ball. The ball gets snapped. So they have to find somebody who can also produce next to Myles, but more importantly, command respect and attention. That's not in the same level as Myles, but at least in the same baseball field or same football field as Myles, because they just haven't had that. Nobody respects anybody who's been opposite of Myles, and that's been one of the things that slowed him down. You look at the end of every season with Myles Garrett, those numbers start great. They slow down because he spends so much energy literally carrying the defensive line on his back. that he's tired by the end of the year, and he probably would have did the same thing if he didn't get suspended at the end of 2019. So that's one of the things they have to worry about. As far as offense goes, when it comes to free agency, they don't really need to do nothing on offense. Honestly, I don't know what else you need to address. You could talk about extending some of these guys early, but your offense is pretty set. Maybe in the draft, you get a fast wide receiver to come in there, get some guys are going to eventually replace Odell and Jarvis in a couple of years. Yeah, do that. This is a good draft to do that. But as far as the defense goes, yeah, you want to get some defenders, you want to get some DBs, hopefully. But other than that, it's hard to do this with the Browns, and it's much like the Ravens, right? Where the guys you're going to be targeting, they're just not available yet because you're waiting for some other, you're waiting for what they call it, a shoe to drop or whatever. Like you're waiting for
the shoe to drop,
because some shoes are going to drop. They're going to announce this cap being like 182, and some shoes are going to drop. There are going to be some owners who are going to be like, not the year to go over the cap. We're cutting all these dudes. Things are going to happen that are weird. Calvin Oy getting cut, that's not even the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Before we go to Ace, two things, guys. Don't forget there's super chats available. If you have a question or a comment, make sure you put the super chat. We'll highlight it there. And then second, I forgot already what it was. So Ace, what do you think? What was it? What do you think about the Browns? How do you think they're going to attack this offseason for free agents?
I think we talked with Quincy last season and on the show. One thing that was always brought up was defense, right? Primarily the safety position and some things that they could work out at the linebacker position. I think that's what you'll see them do. I think the Browns are going to go in, like Quincy is saying, and get some solid veteran players to add to that defense, as well as you talk about the offense. And Njoku's probably out there, but he really kind of was third fiddle anyway. So like Quincy is saying, they really didn't have a need really for anything else there. The only thing that I could think of is maybe a receiver, but I don't think that you need to spend that money in free agency. This draft is loaded with receivers that they can get in the later rounds. So I think that you'll just see them focus primarily probably on defense, getting someone like Quincy said to pair with Myles Garrett. Obviously, that's a need for them. I think that they were pretty actually good at the D tackle positions. It's just that other defensive end and getting Myles some help. And maybe at the safety position, maybe they find someone. I know Quincy has talked extensively about them kind of getting that safety position shored up as well. So you never know, especially when you have all of these guys that get cut, that are cap casualties. You just never know. I'm pretty sure tomorrow we'll wake up and it'll be somebody else that's in the free agency pool that we didn't expect. So I think that's what you will see them do. They're pretty solid as well on the offensive line. This team just doesn't really have holes like that. I mean, honestly, let's just be real. They don't really have too many holes where they just have to address this and that. So they can kind of sit back and make their moves. But the thing that's coming is, and it's coming for all of us, right? I think it's going to come for me probably later than you guys, but barely later, is Lamar Jackson's got to get paid. So what does that mean? That means Baker Mayfield has to get paid. And that is when you're going to get to the crossroads like I was with Andy Dalton, not comparing Baker or LJ to Andy Dalton, but you're going to have to look at this guy and be like, am I willing to let someone like, extending Myles Garrett or extending someone that's, amazing over there, one of your offensive linemen for Baker? That's when you're going to have to cross that crossroad. Like for now, you're good. But when it gets to the point where it's like, for me, it was like, all right, I'm going to have to let maybe Jonathan Joseph go because Carson Palmer's contract is massive. And then Carson Palmer's gone and is washed. And it's like, okay, Jonathan Joseph is out there thriving for this other team. And that's the thing that we're all waiting for. So I think right now, Browns are just going to put themselves in a good position knowing that that's coming, right? Like, all right, let's get some good deals done with these guys now while the iron is hot. So that way we don't have to overpay for someone and have to make some decisions down the road. Go ahead, Q.
Yeah, one thing I want to add and jump on that is this is why I said with the Bengals it's important that you see this year just how far Joe Burrow can take you. Because one of the things we learned about Baker Mayfield this year, and look, I'm not going to get a debate of whether he's better or not with Odell, but what you can say pretty definitively throughout his 3 years is that he can produce without having all pro wide receivers. Like he does not need the most loaded wide receiving group. Like he's had maybe his best 2 years. Jarvis Landry was the best receiver he's had. And then it's been than, you know, Donovan Peoples-Jones or Rashard Higgins, like not household names by any stretch of the imagination. The problem the Browns did is that they went out and they got all that star talent at wide receiver, right? Now they got an Odell contract. They don't know necessarily how to go about it. They just kind of have to keep him at this point. And it's like, you kind of put yourself in that situation when you don't know how far your quarterback can take you. So for Bengals fans, this adds to that point. Learn how far Joe Burrow can take you, exactly what he needs before you start adding pieces there, because maybe Odell, if they don't make that trade 2 years ago, they could have got a defensive end to go against Miles, which they really need right now. And again, I'm not trying to say Odell does not make Baker better. He probably will help Baker reach a different level, but we know to win football games with Baker Mayfield, you just did not need the star talent at wide receiver. Now we know that, but, you know, we already got Odell. So this is why it's important to let your quarterback take you as far as he can take you and then build around that.
I agree. So before we go to Tony, the other thing that I wanted to make sure you guys know is hit that like button. Please hit that like button. So Mischief Culture says, welcome back, boys. Browns were in the market for J.J. Watt, but now that he's gone, I could see maybe Judon and Von Miller on opposite to Miles. And then he also has another, and thank you for the donation, Mischief. To A's point, can we say that the Chiefs will be in that position a few years from now? That 10-year deal of Mahomes is going to cost them later.
I have a hot take to say right now.
Go ahead.
We all talk about being team, I'm not paying a running back, right? A lot of people are going to turn into team, I'm not paying a quarterback, and I'm going to draft a rookie one and sit on that scale for 5 years and then load up with other talent. Because when you do what you did with Deshaun Watson and you completely pay him all of that money, you have to get rid of everything around him. It doesn't matter what your team is around you. Like, look at Russell Wilson, right? He can get the most money in the NFL. If you don't have an offensive line in front of him, it's not going to matter. Like, you're not going to win those games. So I think that eventually we're going to get to a point where it's like, how much are we overpaying quarterbacks? Are we overpaying them and not being able to fill out these other areas like edge rusher, like corner, like left tackle? Like, these are important positions too. There's nothing more important than the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. But we all know if you have just a quarterback by itself and no offensive line, it doesn't matter who you have back there. You're not going to win games.
Now, the one thing I'll say to that, right, and kind of how we got here to are we overpaying quarterbacks to that conversation, is that the quarterback pay model was kind of built and exploded in an era where there was this tremendous quarterback drought, right? Like, we've talked about it from what draft was it, 2004 draft to pretty much like the 2017 draft. There's been like one or two all-pro first round quarterbacks, and now within the last 4 years, it's been like 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. These quarterbacks, they enter the league and they populate the league, and it's like it happens in waves, it seems like. And when you're in that wave, you feel like, oh man, quarterback is a little bit more elastic than I thought. You know, I could get another quarterback in the draft. The problem is you'll do that and then boom, you hit the drought. Like you'll hit the drought years. That's the Browns, you know, famously hit the drought and did not get out of the drought until that drought ended. So with quarterback play, like we could say like, hey, look, they took some things from the college game that's made quarterback a little bit easier to play. And there is some credence to that. But I don't think what we're living in now, right, where all these quarterbacks can just like come out and play not at a high level, but at a good enough level, right? Where we're talking about, 15, 16 guys, quarterbacks in the NFL, you can feel reasonably confident that if you have enough around them, you can win a Super Bowl with. I just don't think that's something that's going to last. And if you start doing that, that's just a dangerous gamble. Running backs, there's probably 50 running backs who can start in the NFL right now. So it's a safe gamble when you don't want to pay them. But with quarterbacks, it's a little bit different. And you don't want to run into a situation where you're like, okay, disposable quarterback, and then you run into the drought. Next thing you know, you signing Kirk Cousins to the most guaranteed money in NFL history. Right. Not because he's the best quarterback to ever hit the market. It's just because he's the quarterback that's available.
That's what we're about to see. Is I think we're going to see the death of the mid-range quarterback, right? You either are going to have the guy, right? The other guy. Or you are just going to continue churn. I think what we saw is what's happening right now, specifically with the Rams and Eagles, and they're like, the case of this, right? Which is that they thought they had the guy, and then as soon as they realized it's wrong, it's like, oh, you're going to have $30 million of a cap hit this year if if you trade Carson Wentz. Doesn't matter because we cannot win with this guy, and we got to move on immediately, right? And so that's what's going to start happening now is you're going to have these teams who, you're not going to pay the guy until you know for sure. You can't make an Eagles type mistake. You can't make a Rams type mistake because it sets your franchise back. And that's why we're seeing this. I mean, we're going to see a gigantic.
Dare I say you can't make a Ravens type of mistake?
Well, I mean,
Joe
look,
Flacco after the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Well,
and, look, and I would throw both these quarterbacks in there. I would look, and I know Sonny and Ace aren't going to, Sonny and Quincy aren't going to want to hear this, but like, I would throw both guys in the. I'm not sure you want to send them to huge
I would say this.
Now.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that though. I would say like with Baker Mayfield, like there's no way I'm going to sit out here like that. That's a wild argument, right?
Like
Baker Mayfield's worth $40 million.
Would you make Baker Mayfield the number one paid quarterback in the NFL?
No, I wouldn't. Like that's not acceptable.
But saying 40 plus is the number, right? Pat Mahomes is what
my
making
number with Baker is probably my number with Baker is probably like 30 million or 35 like for 1 year.
Yeah, but he's not going to take that.
Yeah, and it's like somebody wants to pay him 40 million. That's going to be. We'll see if that happens because I don't think he's put together that well for the track record. Now he could come out next year and have an MVP season, and you got to do it at that point, right? But it's kind of like where the Ravens are stuck at is like they probably are feeling like, yo, Lamar, we want to give you 30, 25 right now, and Lamar is like, I won the MVP. I'm getting $45 million. Like that's a trickier situation. With Baker, it's like I don't know how highly he thinks of himself or how much he thinks he should get paid. We haven't even crossed that threshold yet. But yeah, with Baker, like I get with Tony's point. There's probably going to be a limit. There's going to be guys you're going to want to give $45 million to, and then there's going to be
Dak Prescott right now, right?
Yeah, or Dak should get his money, but
Dak's in like a weird. Yeah, he should.
Dak's in a weird situation right now.
But it's like you don't want to be with Jared Goff or Matt Stafford is the key, right? Because I get now that Matt Stafford's on a different team. There's all these like stands of Matt Stafford coming out here telling me Matt Stafford's really been a top 5 quarterback this entire time.
I don't know
But I get it. Whatever. He's had trash O-lines or whatever excuse you want to have.
What?
Here's the thing with Matt Stafford, right? Matt Stafford has had some good pieces around him offensively. He has had Megatron. He's had Kenny Galladay. He's had good pieces. But have you ever looked at the Lions and been like, man, that's one of the best offenses in the NFL? That's where it's like, I don't know how much of a raiser he is, so you don't want to pay him, floor raising money. I think the same conversation should be happening for Deshaun Watson, right? Because when we talk about guys worth $45 million, probably shouldn't be going 4-12 with those guys. Like if we're talking about who's really worth that much money and taking that much of the cap, if a quarterback can have as good as a year as Deshaun Watson had and not win more than 4 games, maybe you are paying him too much money.
So the problem
I'll give him the Bill O'Brien exception on that one. Like I'm going to give him a 1 year Bill O'Brien exception. All right, Deshaun, you went 4-12 and had a great year numbers wise, but you still went 4-12. But we're going to give you the Bill O'Brien exception.
34 games he was gone. I'll just say, that money on him, it's a little bit questionable when you look at how much better can he play versus what the team did around him, and that's where you start to ask some questions, right? Like it's not service to
the questions.
It's not a top 10 quarterback, but this ideal that top 5 quarterback that we've lived with the last decade, right? Top 5 quarterback means that you're guaranteed to be a contender. That's been the consensus thinking for a long time. Now it's starting to show. You can have the quarterback, bro. Everybody else. The problem isn't that you don't have the quarterback. The problem is that back in the day, if you had the quarterback, you were one of 5 teams with a really good quarterback. Now you're one of 20. So that's the big issue, right? You can have the quarterback, but everything's evolved around the game so much that you need much more around it. And that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see which is the better route, to have the mid-range $20 million guy that you can win behind, or to have the guy that's $45 million worthy. We don't know what that answer is going to be, but it looks interesting to me what that case is going to be for that guy, because I used to be one of those dudes the most expensive quarterback's probably going to win the most games. But to me, the more I go on with it, you watch Russ and his struggles, you watch Deshaun have a great MVP caliber season and not win that many games. And you're like, maybe quarterback play is not the elevator that we thought it was.
Well, see, I'm going to disagree on that last point.
It's an elevator. It's just you can't do it to the point where you cripple your entire team to where you can't put anything around them. So one thing people always wonder, how did Brady win all of these championships? It's because he was never the top paid quarterback in the
Never.
league, but he was still a top quarterback in the league.
What?
He sacrificed that so that they would go out and sign guys like Randy Moss and Wes Welker, and you continue to see him do it. Like most of the times, Tom Brady was never like the top paid quarterback in the league. He'd be like, all right, I'll just take this. You know, Peyton, he can have 10 more million, and Aaron Rodgers can have 10 more million. I'm gonna have more
Giselle, Giselle getting
that's what I'm saying.
Too. Yeah.
Question about Trevor Lawrence is: are you dating a supermodel? If yes, then you're the number 1 overall pick. If not,
but like I think the bigger question is like with Deshaun Watson, like let's really like evaluate that situation with Houston, how they went 4-12. Like I know it's like easy to say, oh, Bill O'Brien trash, throw that in the dumpster. But they went to the playoffs the year before with Bill O'Brien, so it can't all be on. Like I'm not saying Bill O'Brien's good or he's made strong decisions. No, he's made terrible decisions. He's a terrible coach. You should not be in charge again. But I don't think it's to the point where you could just be like pointing your fingers and blaming. I remember at the beginning of the season when we looked at the Texans and I was kind of down on them. Everybody else is looking at me crazy. Like, oh, you don't think the Texans are going to win at least 10 games? And
exactly. I was that guy.
He had a great year, Deshaun Watson. And look, outside of Deshaun Watson, that team is not barren at all. They have some good wide receivers. They still got Laramie Tunsil. Their defense stinks, but their defense stunk last year. They gave up 45 straight points to the Chiefs. Like, we knew this about them coming in. The only thing that changed is that Deshaun Watson played better, and the team did not win more games. And you have to ask yourself, if the quarterback can play as good as he wants, and the team's really not going to make that much more in a step in today's NFL, how many more wins is that top 5 quarterback worth? Because I think we're finding out in today's league where there's more good quarterbacks, it just ain't what it used to be. And maybe having the best quarterback in the NFL is not the joker card, right? Or the ace of spades that it used to be back when there were probably like we were trying to act like Matt Ryan was really good. Like, back when we were that desperate to talk about dudes who were that good. It's just a lot different now. And I think that's one of the things, not trying to discourage, not trying to say that Deshaun Watson's not good. I'm just saying, even if he is that good, you have to ask yourself, what is the impact? How much better is he going to make me than having the 15th best quarterback?
Yeah, maybe why the Rams went with Stafford, who, we're not super high on him, but maybe it was a dollars thing. Because if you go after Aaron Rodgers, who just said, I want to be the top paid quarterback again, do you still have money for Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and all of those guys? Right. So it makes you kind of determine that. And I think the Brady approach, what he's done in Tampa is get him a bunch of good players around him, right? And, just allow him to not take up that much of the cap. And we're going to probably see more of that happen, especially with them wanting to bring those guys back. I don't know how they're going to do it. They claim that they're going to do it with bringing back Shaq Barrett and all of these guys, Fournette and stuff like that, to give it another run. But it's just going to kind of come down to that too. Like, how much are you going to pay these guys? Are they going to be $50 million or $30 million?
Before you, let's just take the super chat real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Do you hear the Bengals are updating the jerseys?
Yes. Finally.
Yes, I know Ace is all over that.
The Bengals have changed their jerseys since 2005. It's been a while. I'm excited though.
Are they just going to make their color rush their real jersey? Is it simple as that?
I don't know. I think it's going to end up being a pretty simple change. I think it'll be similar. A lot of us actually want to go back to, ironically, the jerseys that we had before 2005. So like the 90s ones, the Jeff Blake years. I think that we'll do something similar to Tampa, how Tampa went back and grabbed those like early 2000s Warren Sapp jerseys and just do like a newer updated look to it. I think that's what we'll see. I don't think it'll be super drastic. They're keeping the same helmet, which people would kill them if they changed the helmet. But as long as, I think it's just going to be something subtle and probably some homage back to that jersey look that everyone loved. And everybody wants to get rid of these side panels. I can tell you that right now. That's the number one complaint. Nobody likes the side panels at all. So
I got to ask Ohio a question though, because I just realized why do we hate helmet logos? Like, why do we have such a distaste? The Browns don't have a logo on their helmet. The Bengals don't. The Buckeyes don't. Like, it's just like, we don't do helmet logos here in Ohio. Like, is that why we don't like the Steelers? Because they slapped the logo on one side, and we was like, oh, they out here being trash.
Paul Brown. You guys are all Paul Brown teams. I mean, every single team in outside of the Steelers was.
Everybody wants this leaping tiger thing back. Everybody is like, bring it back, bring back the leaping tiger, get rid of the
Leaping
B.
tiger.
No one likes this B
I
that you
saw
see
somebody
behind
be
me.
like, "Yo, the Bengals should go
I
back
like
to
the
their
B.
'60s throwbacks or the early throwbacks, the first Bengals jerseys." And the people were like, "Why it look like the Browns?" Because you basically were the Browns. Like
We
that's
were the
that's
Browns,
throwback.
And they literally were. Yeah.
The Browns fired Paul Brown, and then he went to Cincinnati. And he was like, "I'm gonna remake the Browns in Cincinnati and just call them Bengals
I ain't get fired. I just
because I can't call them the Browns."
So we have
the
here
man's name. They took the man's name. Y'all took his name.
another super chat. Thank you. Shout out to the trip. Teams win games. They always have. Great young QBs are the best time to go all in on rings.
Yep.
And if the front office is great, there's a way to extend it. It's not a matter of, in my opinion, continuing with the conversation. If you can extend it, I think what Q's point is perfect here. You paid Deshaun Watson all this money, and the result is the number 3 overall pick, right? Or the 4th overall pick.
Well, somebody else getting your number.
Oh, yeah, they're not getting it. But that's not Deshaun Watson's
in
fault.
fairness, though, we can't just act like Deshaun Watson only had that one bad season. He did have 2 other seasons where he went to the playoffs.
No,
but
like
it was all on him.
Yeah, he had the one season, and it wasn't a bad season. He had a good year. It's just he did not win a lot. My thing is like going forward, right? Are you in a better position if you're with a quarterback you can justify paying $20 million a year that might be like, top 8 fringe to like top 15, that you can get away with 20 million dollars a year, top money for like a defensive end or something? Or are you in a better position if you have one of the top 5 quarterbacks who are going to command $45 million a year?
Right.
I'm starting to lean towards the position that like maybe you do want a guy who might be, at that bottom of the top 10 that you can win a lot of games with. He's just not going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, this is what Big Ben has been pretty much his entire career. Not necessarily a top 5 quarterback every year, but he's always hovered around the top 10 at least. You know what I mean?
Top of the top 10, yes. Bottom of like the 18 through 20, I'm gonna say no because that was Andy Dalton.
Yeah. You don't want to live down there. That's where you're at.
That
like
20 mil and getting like a young quarterback like Joe Burrow and paying them on that rookie scale. You'd be better off doing it that way. But no, I get what you're saying. If you're close to the top 10, if you're like you're saying, like if it's Matt Stafford, let's just say that, right? I don't consider Matt Stafford top 10. Apparently, I found out some people thought he was. But to me, he's like near the top 10. He's in that 11 to 20 range for me. So if I had to pay him $20 million or something like that, yeah, I'd do that versus paying Pat Mahomes $50 million a year. Like I can't even imagine. Like that's
it's $20 million right now.
That's what it's going to be.
It's
going to get to $50 million
to the last
a year.
2 Super Bowls. Like to be fair, though, to counter my point, like Patrick Mahomes has been to the last.
Okay, and this is the point that I was going to bring, guys. I think the big problem is when you pay the quarterback, and this is a point that I brought maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago in my show, that Cleveland, Baltimore, and Buffalo will have. As the number that you pay these 3 quarterbacks, all 3 quarterbacks have flaws. All 3 of them. They have different flaws. And right now, because they're cheap, you can masquerade a lot of their flaws, right? But as the moment that you pay them and you cannot retain some of the talent, right? The Ravens right now are preparing for that, right? So Orlando Brown Jr., I knew they were going to trade Orlando Brown Jr. a month ago. They haven't traded, but he requested it. I think one of the things is because he wants to get paid left tackle money. Ravens don't have that kind of money to pay him. So as moving forward, the problem is when you pay these quarterbacks 40 plus. Let's talk about the 40 plus quarterbacks, right? Now those quarterbacks have to be almost perfect. They cannot miss. They need to elevate instead of relying, right? Right now, if you have a quarterback that relies on certain facets to make him better, to elevate him, well, as soon as you get paid the 40 plus, those pillars might not be there. So now that quarterback has to elevate. Pat Mahomes, we see what he can do. Obviously, he didn't have an O-line for the Super Bowl. That cost him, but you see what he can do with other players. But the question is, are these other tiers of quarterback, should they get paid in there, right? Because if they do, how much is your team suffering? That's the big thing.
By the way, who said that the Bucs was going to win?
You did call that one.
You
were the only one, I think.
You did.
Yeah, I was betting against Patrick Mahomes. I wasn't doing that.
Same.
I thought Sonny was gonna go with the trenches. I was like, he doesn't have any offensive linemen.
Well, I said that they might lose, but I was not gonna go with Pat against Pat.
You can't go against
Tony. You haven't talked about this topic. What do you think, man?
Okay, about the Browns or about quarterbacks?
Whatever you want to do, freestyle, man.
Both.
Okay, so as far as the quarterback thing, like I'm being convinced by Quincy's argument, this idea that like you need to leave room, and maybe it's that plus the idea that it's so easy to play quarterback. I am very convinced by the idea that it's never been easier to play quarterback in the NFL right now. And so if you take those two things together, of like these mid-range guys, as long as you're not overpaying for a mid-range guy, because it's all about value, right? The money number, right? We have a fixed pie, right? You have the salary cap. And you cannot go over the salary cap. You can roll over, you can manipulate it, but that is a fixed pie, right? And so your quarterback and the slice of that you give to a quarterback, he has to play above that value, right? And same thing for the rest of your team. And so if you're paying a guy $40 million who's giving you half the production, right, of a Patrick Mahomes, well, then you have vastly overpaid, and it's going to be almost impossible unless you find incredible value in other positions to make that up in other places. And so I do think where we should go, but we won't, is to a place where there is like a legit tier structure to quarterback play, where there are guys who are the top guys, the Aaron Rodgers and the Pat Mahomes, that are getting 40, and it's eventually going to be $50 million a year. But then there should be another tier, right, where it's a significant drop off down to like 35, where we're talking about that second tier guy, and then lower and lower. We won't see that because again, the agents and all this are just going to make it so that someone's like 2 years from now, there will be a quarterback who makes more per year than Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is going to play for 10 years, and he will, by the end of that 10 years, he will be like the 20th highest paid quarterback in the league if he doesn't get an extension.
He'll force his way out.
Right? I mean, but I'm saying like that, the value of that contract and the way that these things, the inflation happens over the years. Yeah, I mean, some guy 10 years from now is going to be making double what Pat Mahomes makes. Yeah. Now, as far as the Browns go, I think the Browns are in. I always sound like a Browns fanboy whenever I talk about the Browns in the offseason.
I think you're secretly a Browns
They
fan.
are in a very good spot. Like they're in a very good spot. Here's the thing that people don't realize about the Browns. They have all these holes on defense. Oh, but by the way, they get 3 guys back they didn't have last year. Andrew Billings, not going to be an opt-out again, right? In all likelihood. Greedy Williams, if he can ever get on the field, my goodness, they insert him at outside corner. And, oh, by the way, my favorite guy, Grant Delpit, should be back. And they had all these problems at safety last year. And Grant Delpit could be a tremendous asset to them on the back end. Now, look, do they have holes? Yes, because if Greedy doesn't come back, then they need to put someone outside of Denzel there to play corner at a decent level. And I think that they could probably use another receiver, especially a young receiver, not in free agency, but someone to go along with Odell in the long run, right? Because you have how many more years of Odell? You can get a young receiver in there, build him up, and then if Odell wants to walk in 2 years, okay, we drafted a guy to go alongside. The last point I want to make here on the Browns, talk about edge rusher for this team. I'm surprised no one's brought up Bud Dupree when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, because Bud Dupree's a guy in Pittsburgh who it took him until TJ Watt came along, right? And the question with Bud Dupree is, well, can he be a real, elite edge rusher as a number one, right? As the guy on a team. And I think that is a legitimate question. That won't be a question on the Browns. Or you put him alongside Myles Garrett. Well, we know he can produce when he's alongside a premier pass rusher. He did it for the last 2 years beside TJ Watt. Now, there's another question with him is when can he actually get on the field? Because he tore his ACL late in the year. I think even if he doesn't play until midseason, I think the Browns are a playoff team next year, right? So they need a guy who's going to be, late down the stretch type guy and into the playoffs. That could be Bud Dupree for them. And he's not, we talk about the Browns not wanting to spend an arm and a leg. Well, then, Shaq Barrett's going to make like $30 million or whatever. Bud Dupree might make like 10 or 15. You're going to get a real discount on a guy who, he won't play for 6 or 7 weeks, but when he does play, you're going to get quality from him, and he'll likely get better as he gets more comfortable on that knee. So he could be a guy to watch for in Cleveland. But I think Cleveland's in a great spot this offseason because, look, they have holes, but they don't have holes in big spots. They have all their major pieces are in place. They have some spots on defense they have to fix. But again, even in those spots, safety and corner, they have guys coming back from last year that they can fill in with.
Okay, so we have here another super chat from Misfit. We all know why Brady won that 7 win, right? Allegedly. Reference. Not enough football. Yes, I'm that guy. Don't at me.
No,
the first half
had no line. and
first half was bad, but
showed what Pat Mahomes would look like if he was drafted to the Bengals. Like,
by the way, I want to drop this stick of dynamite in the middle of this podcast and see what happens. I think sacks should be a quarterback stat.
I agree.
Because
100%
Patrick
agree.
Mahomes got all that pressure on him, which is a defensive line stat, right? The pressure got to him. He only got sacked like 3 times?
Yeah.
Sacks or quarterback stat. That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy. But I think people just forgot how good the Bucs D line was. Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh, who's the kid that
Shaq
they drafted? Shaq Barrett, but there's the D tackle too, Vita Vea.
Yeah.
That was an amazing defensive line. And I mean, it was just amazing defense all over. Like, you talk about the linebackers are good, the corners were good.
Chiefs had Mike Remmers out there playing left tackle, I think.
I mean, they were decimated.
They were
decimated
out there. They were starting Filer, who got cut from the Steelers.
No. It was Wisniewski. Not
They took the right tackle. They moved it to the left tackle. I mean,
I don't know what Andy Reid was thinking. He was just like, we're just gonna roll like we have our starting line. Like, that was not good. I don't know what he was thinking. Like, I think with that game plan.
What's crazy to me is I think we all expected, right? Well, that don't worry, because we have Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, and we saw think back to the Chiefs game plan against the Ravens, right? Where they were out there like they were flexing on the Ravens. They were like doing the spin moves and stuff. They did the underhand pass on the touchdown, right? I mean, they just whatever they wanted to do to the Ravens, they could, and you felt like. Well,
tight end screens underneath.
Right, exactly. Like, just stuff they didn't even need to do against the Ravens, and you felt like, all right, they have 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks to creatively think about ways to work around this offensive line.
So you're talking about when they played the Browns, not the Ravens, right?
No, they didn't do that.
No, they did something against the
Ravens.
Ravens.
Yeah, they
did
the Browns. We just got Chad Henne. You know what? Like, it just happens. Sometimes
that's the thing. They should have put Chad Henne in for. They should have benched Mahomes, put Henne.
Yeah,
no, but Mahomes. And by the way, Mahomes actually played
great for Deshaun Watson.
Mahomes played great in that game. The pass where he was falling to the ground and throws its sidearm and it hits the receiver in the face. I mean, it should have been intercepted.
It also, that's what I was going to say. It also could have been intercepted.
I mean, incredible. Just an incredible play. The fact that it was that accurate.
Yeah,
did you see the one he threw? See, this is why it's hard to sleep on Patrick Mahomes, because you're like, he's Patrick Mahomes. Like, I've seen him just throw the ball from anywhere, and then you watch this game and you're like, there's no way he has a chance. And then he'll be throwing the ball. He threw the ball sideways, no feet on the ground, and it was a dot. It was such a dot. The wide receiver was like, I can't believe that hit my hand. I can't believe that hit my hand. It's not just a cannon arm. How do you do that? Like that. I've watched Francisco Lindor in Cleveland for the last 5 years. He's one of the best shortstops in the NFL, in Major League Baseball. He don't even do that. Patrick Mahomes is out here just doing it casually down 15. So it's hard to be like, oh, that's what I was thinking before the game, where I was like, yeah, they're gonna get the Patrick Mahomes, but he's just gonna throw it up to Tyreek Hill anyways. Drunk off that Patrick Mahomes juice. And I promise you, that's what Eric B. and Andy Reid was on. It was like, look, it ain't gonna matter. We just gonna throw this up to Tyreek Hill because we got the best QB in the game. And
you said don't sleep on Pat Mahomes. You can never bet against Brady. That's been like for the last 15 years. You never bet against Tom Brady. If he was going against anyone else other than Tom Brady, I'm rolling with Mahomes, but I'm like, this is Tom Brady, dog.
Doesn't Brady now have more rings than
than Pittsburgh? Oh, it happened. There we go.
He has the most rings. Tom Brady himself has the most rings, and more than any other franchise in the NFL.
It's insane.
But
so the question needs to be asked: is Tom Brady a Hall of Famer?
I don't know. I think he's a borderline. Maybe that 5th year we'll get him in.
It depends if Ben gets in, right? If Ben gets in,
exactly. Ben needs to open the door for him.
You know what the key to Tom Brady's success has been this entire season, though? What he really what he needs is his balls. Okay. And that's why, to throw it back to Manscaped, make sure you use the promo code AFC North Talk, all one word, AFC North Talk, promo code. Go to manscaped.com. We get 20% off and free delivery.
Bengals fans, we don't want to say welcome to the jungle to our wives and it not mean us going to Paul Brown Stadium. Okay, so make sure you check out Manscaped.
Yo. I will say this, guys, as we're wrapping up, a couple of things. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you know where we go live. We're coming live now every Tuesday. Next week, we'll talk about Ravens free agency market and the Steelers looking for the stimulus check. So they're looking for them to pass that.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Also,
checks get cut.
go check Manscaped, guys. We are looking for people to, purchase the product. Use the promo code AFcnorthtalk. Send us if you buy it, so we can just give you a shout out in the show. We appreciate it. We're trying to get a sponsorship, a permanent sponsorship with Manscaped. So anything you guys do for us, that'll be great. And like I said, every Tuesday with free agency for now. Obviously, then we're gonna be migrating to the draft. So stay tuned. This show is here. We're back. We just took a little hiatus for a month to re-energize ourselves. And then, we're back here for the AFC North Talk. Anyway, Ace, where they can find you, bro?
You guys can find me here at AFC North Talk. If you guys know people that aren't aware of this show and know how hilarious it is, and anybody that maybe your best friend is a Steelers fan and you're a Bengals, send it to them. Maybe they're, a Browns fan and one of your friends that you hate is a Ravens fan. Still send it to them. You can catch me here, and then you can also catch me on New Stripe City. So that's on YouTube, New Stripe City, and then you can find me on Twitter at New Stripe City.
Cute.
Yo, you can find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier. I do my videos there every day of the week or the weekday. I ain't doing weekends in the off season. We'll do weekends when the season starts. Also, you can find me on this channel next week talking about Allen Robinson.
Ooh.
Hashtag Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson.
He might not make it. I saw a report. He might get franchised. He might get franchised.
$20 million per year. Look at that from the Bears.
$20 million for Allen Robinson.
He said,
one of the best in the
we're
league.
A fan of good players, and Allen Robinson is a good player.
You're going to pay Allen Robinson as much as the Browns are paying Myles Garrett to be Allen Robinson.
Ooh.
That's going to be a conversation.
That's the Bears.
Next week. They're going to pay Allen Robinson as much money as they paying Khalil Mack. Allen Robinson.
That's how good he is. He's the Khalil Mack of wide receivers.
Okay, before I go into Tony, the trade, what's the promo?
No. Why you always got to come here talking crazy in the summer about some wide receiver? Do they go for
Here we are. Listen, we're just
Allen
getting
Robinson
started,
signs with
Quincy.
the Browns.
The offseason.
Last year we were talking about Hollywood Brown. Is it going to be the Allen Robinson show? Is it
going to be the Allen Robinson show next week?
We got 6 months of this.
Allen Robinson, the Khalil Mack. I'm going to hold you to that. The Khalil Mack.
The Khalil Mack of wide receivers.
I only hope the Browns can play Allen Robinson next year.
Yeah,
imagine if the Browns sign him. Imagine if the Browns sign him.
I hope the Browns sign him. I would pay for that. I would.
That's what people on the team. Yeah, I said it. Third best.
Tuning in, notifications turn on immediately.
Oh man! So for the question from the trip, yes, trip, we grew. Thanks for you guys. And right now I'm gonna put the promo code behind you, AFC North Talk, for 20% off in Manscaped. And if you want to see one of the best promos for Manscaped, go back and watch the beginning of this video of Tony, as Tony is saying where they can find you, man.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Steeler Country. You can find me on YouTube. My new channel is Steeler Country with Tony Serino, so search for that. I'll have a video up later this week about the salary cap situation in Pittsburgh. Not as bad as these three may let you or make you believe next week.
Yeah, I just got a call for bad. Like a angel investment loan for the Steelers free agency fund.
Not that bad.
The Steelers got Girl Scouts out there selling Thin Mints and shit.
Guys, right now also everybody's channel is in the description below. So even Tony's channel is also in the description below. Go
even mine, even my lowly channel.
Yeah, the reason I say it like that is because for some reason YouTube doesn't let me at you, Tony.
Yeah, I think it's because I don't have 1,000 subs yet.
So let's make Tony 1,000 subscriber. Let's make Tony 1,000 subs.
We'll donate a month worth of super chats to the Steelers cap space. So
there we go.
so they can sign Eric Ebron to an extension.
2 years 20. 2 years 20. Anyway, you can find me at SCG Sports everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, IG. Also, I'll be throwing like 2 videos of prospects per week. 10 to 15 minute videos of what's my thoughts on the Ravens, but also applies to your team. What I think the prospect is good at, what I don't think he's necessarily good at. Go check my channel. And like I said, guys, every Tuesday, don't forget, we're not doing twice a week now. Only on Tuesdays for now. Tuesdays, 5:45 p.m. Eastern. That's where we're going to be here. And it's always going to be fun. Thanks for coming. Yo, everybody. We'll see you next time. Go check Manscaped.
Have you ever
Are you listening? Damn.